Hello, Abraham.
Yeah.
It's nice to visit with you again. I have more questions.
Yes.
So first I want to say thank you for responding to our asking. And I want to thank Jerry and Esther for sharing this with us. And I want to thank everybody here today for being a part of my experience and manifesting this with me.
We're all in this together. Yep.
So I try to think up questions that I've not heard on any of the record. First of all, I wanted to say an observation that I had is that when I come to the events, that they're so much more powerful than the recordings that I download and listen to. So,
well, there's more intentionality on your part, more expectation, more probable alignment, less distraction that keeps you from hearing. In other words, there are reasons for that, but not one of you needs to be here to get this. Yeah.
So I try to come up with questions that I've not heard anybody else ask, and my first question is there any lovers from my vortex here with us today?
Four.
Yes. Don't be shy. The other day I was listening to a recording of one of our past conversations, and it wasn't exactly the way that I remembered it. So
never is. Your ability to hear us continues to improve. Do you know that everything you hear and everything you think about what everybody else thinks is distorted to some degree because it's muted or hindered by beliefs that are in the way? So as time goes by and you allow more of who you really are to be dominant and present, then you hear more. When we offer a conversation like this, we're speaking to not just those here in this room, but everyone we know who will hear at a level that they can all hear something. That's a common letter that Esther receives. In the night, Abraham snuck in and put more on the recording that I'd already heard.
When I was meditating the other day, this question popped into my mind, and it had to do with memories, and I thought about if my memory's different than what was actually on the recording.
Maybe your memory was different, but your perception, it's your perception, it's how you feel about it. It's like our friend was saying earlier, he's more aware of feelings even than he is about thoughts. And the things that you think you are remembering or that you are remembering are more about what you're thinking. But there is a vibrational core essence that is the basis of what you hear. So when someone says, I have some questions for you, Abraham, and they are unrelated to each other, we want to say, no, they're not. Because your questions can't be unrelated to each other because they are all or both coming directly from you, and your perception is what it is, and all of your questions are colored by your perception.
Well, the thing that came to my mind was in a previous conversation and with conversations you had with other people, you said that your brain is not a storage cabinet.
It isn't.
For memories.
It isn't. It's a transmitting and receiving mechanism. And depending upon what thoughts you've chosen and what vibrational frequency you have isolated and practiced, then you adjust your receiver to thoughts or vibrations that are like that. And then you hear different programming. You hear different things, which is the answer to what you just said to us.
So memories are just thoughts, but how do they serve me? Because I have a tendency to look back.
What serves you is now, because now reflects what you've got going on vibrationally. So the now is reflecting back to you through your emotions what you've got going on vibrationally in relationship to what you've asked for and what your inner being's got going on vibrationally. So the only memories that would serve you at all would be those satisfying memories that help you to set your tone now. Those could serve you, but there's so much satisfying that is available to you now. You know what the biggest difference, someone asked the question just a moment ago about what it's like to croak and what non-physical is like. The biggest difference, the most significant difference, the difference that right now in this red hot moment we want to call your attention to between you and your inner being, is that your inner being never looks back. So when you do, you always introduce some resistance to the equation, because your inner being is always looking forward to what's becoming, and when you look back there is some slight resistance, and that's why you call it nostalgia, that's why you call it homesick, that's why you call it whatever it is, but that's why. These aren't not new questions yet.
I haven't listened to all the recordings. You keep mentioning a rabbit hole, which is interesting because yesterday I got out my DVD of What the Bleep Do We Know Down the Rabbit Hole. And one of the things it talks about on there is that our senses are capable of taking in, perceiving more than what we actually put through to our brain. So
those are screwy words.
They said our senses take in 400 billion bits of information per second, but we only send like 2,000 bits per second through to our brain. So something is deciding what's important to focus on and what's not. And I'm just wondering if there's somehow I can change what I focus on. Because instead of focusing on the things that upset me, how can I focus on
Well, let us just ask you the question. We're asking all of you the question. Was that analogy satisfying or not satisfying? Was it not satisfying because it was incomprehensible? Of course, when you are tuned into who you really are, you have the capacity of understanding so much more. But you don't have to think about every thought that's ever been thinking, or what percentage of the thought that you might be thinking is really getting through to you. How would you ever sort all of that out? Just start with a simple premise that sometimes I have greater clarity than others, and this is one way that I can tell when I have greater clarity. And then just start practicing, focusing or leaning in the direction where you have greater clarity. Because when you speak of what your brain can comprehend, or what your brain is comprehending, or what's coming through the filter that analogy seemed to describe your brain as, we want you to even step into a bigger room with us and think about infinite intelligence. That's a mind blower. Think about infinite intelligence and all of the possibilities. Well, infinite intelligence, let us tell you something about infinite intelligence. It doesn't try to give everything to you all at once. It doesn't offer you more than you have the capability of understanding or of enjoying. Infinite intelligence is about infinite timing. It's about focus. It's about understanding that all things are not happening at the same time. It's about understanding that there are thoughts that are beneficial right now and thoughts that aren't. Infinite intelligence is about understanding who you are as a powerful creator and how much of that you're allowing yourself to be in any moment in time. So we wouldn't spend too much time trying to dissect ourselves and figure out whether our blood's pumping appropriately, or whether our heart's beating appropriately, or whether we're processing this or that, because you can't even begin to do that. But you can, as our wise friend said, I'm paying more attention to the way I feel. And as you pay more attention to the way you feel, then you can get a handle pretty quick on how you are processing things in relationship to your inner being. And so we'd like to say, in response to the belief that you picked up from the analogy or the example that you gave, that your inner being, who is infinite intelligence, who is capable of, in any moment in time, acknowledging and comprehending and focusing upon more than you can even begin to fathom, does not get that far out ahead of you that you can't find complete alignment with that. Your inner being finds no reason to think about everything at once. Your inner being focuses with you out here on this leading edge, not on everything that you've lived, not on everything that you will live, but on where you are right now in relationship to what you've just given birth to and how much of that you're letting flow through. So infinite intelligence isn't about how much you know. or how many thoughts are moving through your mind at any point in time. It's about how much in harmony you are. It's about how open your valve is. It's about how much energy you are receiving, not even about how much energy you're perceiving, not about the energy that you're translating into words. Esther does a remarkable job of receiving all that we are and finding some way of receiving what we know and finding the words in which to express it. But can you imagine if we were offering her at all times infinite intelligence? Can you imagine if everything that we know, we were flowing to her all at once? It would be incomprehensible. There would be no way for her to hook into it. There would be nothing that you would hear that would be of any meaning to you. That's not how the universe works. The universe doesn't try to create its whole self all at once. It's an incremental, infinite, eternal progression of evolution for the satisfaction of the participants that are having the experience, you see. We've enjoyed this interaction.
So have I. Thank you
Really,
very much.
very good.